Hi everyone, Casey Truffaut here, and I'm so excited to be talking to you today. Today is lesson number 2 in our new series. I'm going to get my technology set up here for you. How to offer VIP services. This is our free learning series. In lesson number 1, we talked about how to offer intensives in VIP days, and lesson number 2, we're going to be talking about concierge services. All right, so I'm looking forward to getting started here with you. So, what are concierge services? Well, in a nutshell, more or more convenient access to you, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit. But first, I want to be really clear on something. If you have a practice where you're offering some type of intensives or concierge services or VIP days, in no way are those people getting any better standard of care. They might be getting a different level of attention. They might be getting different access to you. They might be getting intensives versus week-to-week sessions. But you want to make every client feel like a VIP. So I just want to make sure that we're not saying that anybody gets any better care, all right, in these services. But let's talk a little bit about where did the idea of concierge come from. And back in 1996, some physicians were talking, and they realized that they wanted to spend more time with their clients on preventative things, stopping smoking, or losing weight, or giving them nutritional advice. But they didn't really feel that they could do that based on the fact that managed care was paying for resolving these symptoms. And so they would get people in and they would want to spend more time with them, and they weren't able to. So they said, what if we came up with a type of medicine that was direct patient care, that did not involve insurance companies, and that the client paid a fee to get our time and attention? And that's where it came from. And I actually have a concierge medical doctor, and I pay a monthly retainer, and for that I have priority access to him. I can get in and see him on any day that I want to. I'm not recommending that you do this, but I actually have his cell phone number, so if I need an antibiotic prescription, or when Bob had his glaucoma attack in the middle of the night, we were able to get some immediate medical attention. Now again, I'll talk to you more about what you can do as a therapist, but I did want to say that in this series, I'm presenting ideas. And what I want you to do is take this, think about them, think about what might work for you, and then go and spend time with your private attorney and making sure that you're following all the laws for your state or your country and your license. All right, so I just want to be clear. These are ideas, you take them, and then figure out how they're going to work for you. Again, when I'm talking about concierge services, I'm not talking about these services as being covered by insurance. So if you want to be 100% insurance based, I'm not sure offering these services is a good idea. If you want to be reimbursed, I'm suggesting that these be cash services. All right. So what do we mean? Again, more access to you. So this might mean that they could come in and see you earlier. So for example, you might have a 7 to 9 in the morning. That is your time for concierge clients. You might have what I call Swiss cheese calendar. So you have breaks in your day where a concierge client could request a 10-minute phone call or a encrypted video chat, something where you connected with them quickly. I come from corporate America, and you know, there were times when the boss would say, Casey, I need to see you right away. Come in here, you know, at 2 o'clock this afternoon, and you're in trouble. And it was kind of scary. I mean, he was the president of the company. And if I had had a therapist that I could connect with that would either, you know, call me and I could talk with them for 10 minutes, to me, I would have paid a lot of money for that. And in some cases, I think that those might be better for the client. For example, if you're working with moms who have acting out teenagers and they want to get composed before they deal with their teenager's latest incident, imagine if they could connect with you and talk for 15 minutes. Imagine the difference. All right, so these are some things that you can begin to think about. Again, offering additional services or extended access to you in exchange for a fee. Now, another option is in-home visits, or perhaps going to the office. Imagine that I was a client of yours, and if you came to the office because I was struggling with something there, and you came in and we did a session in my office and then you left, to me, that's quite valuable. I don't have to drive there. We've been doing in-home visits for years, but imagine if you could extend that in a way. You could work with a family, watching them in their particular home. I know that the Kardashians, for example, their therapist comes to them. They don't go and sit in a waiting room. So there's these kind of things that you could offer at a premium. Text or email support might be another thing. Now, the number one mistake that many clinicians make when starting concierge practice is that they don't set their boundaries clearly. They say, oh, I've got a concierge client. They're going to pay me, a fair amount of money. So I'm going to be available to them 100% of the time. That is not a good idea. So really sit down, and we'll talk about how to design your service in just a minute, but make sure that you test it, that you beta test it with a client before you do it. So how do you design it? You think about, if I were the ideal client for this service, what would be important to me? And then what would be important to me as the clinician? So I'll give you an example. Someone we know is a therapist, and she lost her mom. And she said, when it was time to go to sleep at night, that was the hardest time for me, and I wished I had somebody to talk to. Or when you wake up in the morning and you forget for just that split second, and then you remember that you've lost somebody that you love. Those were the times that were the most painful for me after I lost my mom. And what I would have loved is to be able to not have to burden my friends again, but have a therapist that I could talk to. So there might be things like that that you could offer that would be special services, but you want to think about what's important to you and what's important to the client. So if you're up all night and you're happy to do late night stuff, that's great. I used to do this. I used to be up till midnight every night, and I would literally talk to people at 11 o'clock at night because that was when I was on fire and up. So, but that might not be you. So again, you want to make sure that you're doing this in ways that work for you and the client, and make sure that you test it with one client before going further. So after your first concierge client, review what worked, adjust as needed. So again, as always, to get started, figure out what you might call it, and then design it, thinking again about what would be important to the client, what would be important to you, price it, and then beta test it with one client, and then see how you felt. Did I feel like this was the right thing for me? Did I feel like this would work? So that's concierge services. Again, talk with your attorney about how to make it work for you, but that's an idea. And in our next free lesson, we're going to talk about the 5 mistakes that most therapists make when they first start offering VIP days, intensives, and concierge services. So until then, it's Casey Truffaut. Mwah. I love you guys.